Hi everybody, this is Katarina with Libelula's Path. I'm an Akashic record reader as well as an energy practitioner, and I'm here to tap into March 29th, 2025's new moon in Aries. So today is March 27th, so in 2 days, March 29th, the new moon will be at its peak in Aries, and this is in conjunction to the solar eclipse that has and is going to continue to occur. And one of those things that comes up during the new moons is new beginnings and releasing. So during new moons, it's really good to think about what is it that you want to release? What part of your identity are you willing to shed that no longer serves you? Also, if you're doing something such as releasing rituals that include taking baths or even bathing in the moonlight, or going to a workout class where you're just sweating, you're releasing, or whether that's having an intention to drink more water, or even thinking about and journaling about things that you're ready to let go of. These are perfect and wonderful ideas to really utilize during this new moon. And it's so powerful because Aries is such a powerful sign. A little bit about Aries: this is a fire sign. It knows what it wants and it goes after it. Aries takes up a lot of space and is unapologetic about taking up space, and it is very insightful in terms of when it's in a crowd, when it's in a room of people, Aries are able to read people really well, and that's the sign and the energy that it carries. And also when an Aries is unbalanced, they can be perceived as very selfish or self-centered, and Aries can also be seen as greedy or not being conscientious of others in the room or in their relationships. And I'm talking about the light and the shadow of Aries because it's such a prominent theme in the new moon. And this is something that is going to come up for so many of us, is how do we take up space in our lives? How do we communicate with others? Are we comfortable being our authentic selves? Are we comfortable communicating our needs and our wants and our desires? And are we comfortable setting boundaries? So much of the population is so scared of setting boundaries, or can have a lot of fear regarding setting boundaries, because there is this innate desire to belong and to want to be in community. And sometimes we translate that as not wanting to shake things up, not wanting to be different, or the desire and need to be liked. When we're so focused on being liked, we leave ourselves. We abandon ourselves and become somebody who we don't even recognize. And that includes being a people pleaser and being inauthentic to who we are inside. And so many people go through this in relationships, and they even go through this in careers and throughout their life. They deeply struggle with setting boundaries. And Aries in this new moon is talking about shedding that identity, shedding that need to please others, shedding that fear of somebody disliking you, because we can't please everybody. I'm going to say that again. We can't please everybody. The only person we can truly please is ourselves. And when we spend so much time pleasing others, we often displease ourselves because we are in congruent with who we are and who we're meant to be. We're meant to shine and we're meant to take up space. And sometimes shining and taking up space is going to upset others, because there are others who get triggered by others taking space because they themselves don't let themselves take space. And so that is often something that is very challenging for those of us who have a hard time really being seen. Sometimes when we don't want to be seen, we have a hard time setting boundaries, and we have a hard time being vulnerable. And Aries, which often is not a particularly vulnerable sign, Aries is more so showing the glitz and the glamour. This new moon is asking us to take off the masks that we may present to the world, or take off that part of our identity that is rooted in trying to be somebody that we truly aren't, or trying to be perfect, because Aries is also the queen or the king or the royalty of perfection. And when things are not perfect, we decide to get upset, we decide to get angry, or when we don't show up as perfect, sometimes we deeply judge ourselves. And it's so interesting how I'm just diving deep into this identity work regarding being ourselves and being okay upsetting others, because when we stand in our authentic power, we allow others to grow and we allow others to learn from us, because sometimes others are just waiting for permission to be themselves. And when we can be that fearless person who says, no, this is who I am, and you either like it or you don't, you give other people that permission indirectly. And they're able to learn and grow from you and see, well, wow, they're really stepping into their power. They're really being who they are set out to be in this world. And then as a result, we then get closer to people because we have more authentic relationships and we have more genuine connections with the people around us because they are genuinely seeing us for who we are. And this new moon is also very action oriented, as Aries is very action oriented, and it allows us to really take a step back and reflect on what is it that we want. What kind of life do we want to lead, and what kind of person do we want to be in our relationships? And there's so much around this regarding the solar eclipse, kind of like lighting a fire under our ass. And I say that because it's really lighting the fire under our ass to take steps and take actions. And are we going to be so swept up in our fear and hide? Or are we going to relinquish that fear and be ourselves? Let ourselves shine. And the result of that often is so much internal peace. At first, it can be turmoil because there are people around us who push back. And don't be surprised if you decide to set your boundaries and you decide to speak your truth. There may be people who don't like that. And they say, no, I wanted the old you. I wanted the version of you who stayed quiet. I wanted the version of you who didn't ask me for things. I wanted the version of you who decided to put my needs before yours. And the bottom line is the only person we can make happy is us. So might as well start taking steps and actions to make ourselves happy instead of making other people happy, because we're never going to make people happy 100% of the time. If we're in a marriage with somebody or in a partnership with somebody, and if we go into this expectation that we're going to consistently make them happy, well, we're going to constantly be disappointed and we're going to probably set ourselves up for failure, because there are going to be times where you're going to have an argument with your partner. There are going to be times where you may love them, but you don't like them in that moment because they may have shown something to you that you didn't like. But the thing is that when somebody shows something to you that you don't like, it often is more telling about ourselves and how we judge ourselves. So when we decide to root our relationships in unconditional radical love and forgiveness, we can then find relationships that are they're forgiving, but they're satisfying, and they give back, and there's an equality to it. There's a balance to it. And I think equality is such a tricky word because nothing is ever truly equal, but instead things can be balanced. And balance takes consistent effort. Equality is more so an expectation sometimes. So it's really, the new moon is on March 29th is so expansive. I feel such an expansive energy, and at times that you may feel, whether it's today or a couple of days from now, a little bit of anxiety or a little bit of, oh, I don't want to deal with that right now. But when we decide to step into our power and really just act from a place of love for ourselves and wanting to grow, we then can change our lives and we then can transform, and every step takes one huge step towards our transformation and our growth. This step now may not seem like a lot or may seem like too much, but I promise you the rewards of knowing yourself and transforming yourself into the person that you want to become and the person that you want to emulate is going to pay off. So I really encourage you all to do something courageous with this new moon and move through the fear. Don't let the fear control you, because our mind and our emotions are just our mind and our emotions. But when we listen to our heart, we then can truly change. And when I say our emotions and our minds, sometimes people get confused, like, well, our heart creates our emotions. Not necessarily. Often things such as fear and anxiety and depression and scarcity mindset and people pleasing, it comes from the mind, because we are too in our minds and we're rationalizing things too much, and we're trying to make ourselves smaller, when the whole point of being human is to step into our light and to be that person that we are proud of and that we're truly happy to be. And so much of symptoms of not being truly happy in our lives is consistent, and I mean consistent chronic anxiety or consistent chronic depression or even physical illness is a sign at times, and this is not always the case, but at times it's a sign that we're not really aligned with where we need to be. So the question is how can you step into alignment today? What is something you can do that will further align your energy to your dream future, your dream life, your dream partnership, your dream career? You can change how you feel today. And that is the most beautiful and expansive thought and a beautiful and expansive mindset to have, because when we feel stuck, we often feel like nothing's gonna change. I'm never gonna be happy. I'm never gonna do this. I'm never gonna get that person, or I'm never going to feel peaceful in my life. And when we say never, never say never, because we can change our thoughts today and we can change our energy today. So I ask you to be your biggest supporter, your biggest cheerleader, because in the end of the day, the person that you always have is yourself. And when you put conditions on your happiness, that is when things start to take a turn and things aren't the way that you thought they were, because you had expectations for that person. You had expectations for your husband. You had expectations for your wife. You had expectations for your job, or you expected your children to behave a certain way in order for you to be happy. That's not how life works. We as a society, we often think that it works that way. We think that if we have this external thing, we then will be happy. But the thing is nothing ever will change if we don't change from within. And I hope that these words and these messages really resonated today, or really was what you needed today, or was a word of encouragement for you to take that step and be your most beautiful, expansive self. And I hope you have a great rest of whatever day you're having, evening, night. And again, my link to book with me is below. And I hope that you have a beautiful new moon.